Heavenly Father, we thank you tonight for all your blessings. You said in all things give thanks. So we want to thank you tonight for these mighty machines that you brought before us.
Here we go, here we go, here we go. Episode 5 of the Holler Pod, your favorite band of 606 outlaws, rednecks, hillbillies, all the above. Brian and Alex behind the headsets, Nick behind the computer screen doing that thing it is that he does. We've got a special guest tonight, which we're very excited about, that we will introduce momentarily. First, I got to check in with the gang. Brian, what's up?
Nothing, man. I just want to say, both literally and figuratively, tonight is a knot of biblical proportions.
You know, I think if the listeners are following along, the context clues afforded to them via social media this morning, the introduction video, and your little blurb there should lead them down the path to figuring out who the guest is. Those watching on YouTube have already seen his lovely face. But before we introduce him, Nick, give me some wisdom. What'd you learn this week?
It's a tough one. I
know.
You don't know what's real and what's fake.
Oh. That's deep. I won't ask for anecdotal evidence, but
Profound.
I trust you. All right. Without further ado, we want to introduce a dear friend of every single one of us on this podcast and probably all 21 followers on Twitter. Shout out followers. I've got an intro here and I want to hype him up. The meanest 10-foot jump shot the Adams Middle School gymnasium had ever seen. The finest mustache in the Big Sandy Valley region. A man of the cloth, a friend of the pod, Seth Carter.
Where am I and how did I get here?
We actually drugged him to come on here, so yeah. But what's up, dude? How you been?
Hi guys, it's good to see you all. I am a fan of the pod, by the way. I'm a fan of two kinds of pods: this pod and pod racing in Star Wars. So it is an honor to be here. Yeah,
you're showing your age.
Yep.
Okay, that little hilarious blip we played at the beginning was a video that resurfaced this week of Pastor Joe Nelms at a NASCAR race in Darlington back in 2011. I immediately spit my drink out when I heard it because it is, as Southerners, we can all, find solace in the fact that that is down home and that sounds very similar to the church I grew up in. So it made me laugh. I knew we had to play it to get things going. And I also wanted Seth's honest reaction to the video.
Yeah, I'm jealous. I mean, what a privilege for any pastor to pray for mighty machines. I mean, come on.
We cut it off early. It gets way better.
Oh, yeah. You should watch that.
We need to listen to it after the show.
I mean, that's like a ministry-defining moment for that guy.
He's got a cult following now.
Seth, as someone in that position, how can he top that?
I don't really think that. I mean, honestly, the only way to top that is to pray at the Daytona 500. I mean, you got to stay in the same lane. Can it get better than praying for a NASCAR? Yeah.
That's
hey. Cool. Yeah. So, I mean, it's impressive.
Yeah.
I really chuckled. It was great. All right, let's hop in. Let's go. I'm ready. It's been a week. Brian gets to do these every single day. Alex has to wait 7 days. So I'm rip-raring, ready to go. Nick, let's jump into the most controversial topic of last episode, and it deals with the newfound trend on social media to name the "Let Me Speak to Your Manager" people as the female version as Karen. So, Seth, I don't know if you're aware of something like that. It's probably it's all over social media. So we asked a simple question: is theoretically, who is Karen married to? And you can see, I don't want to name who's option one, but it might be the guy talking.
Well, everybody gets one, Alex.
Everybody
gets one.
Hey, great competition. Frank, I was pulling for you. I would have voted for you, but I had to vote for myself. 11 votes.
You just didn't. Yeah.
Yeah, 11 votes. Hey, that's what we like to see.
Yeah.
63%. I mean, that's a
Engagement.
landslide, guys. Like, that is like more than statistically significant.
I'll be honest, I didn't see this. I would have voted for myself.
Okay, here we go. Mare's milk. Mare's milk for all involved.
Can we be sure that there's not been any Russian involvement?
Hey,
No,
that's
and
what
I'm
I was thinking.
Probing.
Some outside influence here on these votes.
What I'm thinking.
Funny money. Hey, I'll take it. Okay, a dub's a dub, right?
That's
What-
true.
What has the
true.
NCAA shown us? If you cheat, you got to win. If you cheat and win, they don't take anything. But if you just cheat and lose, then they punish you.
That's how I live
Yeah.
my life.
Yeah, unless there's. I'm not going to go into that Will Allen, Louisville fan, but you know what I'm getting at. Okay, substantive content for Seth's episode. I heard. Well, I do it all the time, right? So I am not whatever brain you need to be number savvy, analytical. That's not my brain. I'm the other brain. I don't know if it's left or right, Brian, Seth. I don't. Maybe you guys can tell me about.
No idea.
I'm a word guy. I'm a speaker. I can just talk, and the opposite of a scientist, may you say. So when I hear words that are spoken, whatever dialect, incorrectly, as they are written in the dictionary, it bugs me, because you didn't take enough time to research that new word that you're trying to use in front of me, right? That makes sense.
Correct.
So I want to tee it up to you guys, and I've got a heater, let me tell you. What are some words that pester you when you hear them spoken in a normal sentence that you know are incorrect, and they read out and they're spelled out in a different way? So us being from back home, we will have no problem filling this poll. But Brian, hit me with a winner.
Well, it's kind of, I've got two. One of them,
Denied.
and that's a good one. But I'm gonna say library as library.
Oh,
Or
that's a good one.
yeah, or like when people say espresso instead of espresso, they want to go. Let's all go to the library and get some espresso. Those two really get on my nerves. But also, now that I'm thinking about it, Alex, now that you're saying this, anytime somebody adds an S to the end of something,
Yeah.
Walmart's, El Azul,
That was mine.
it's El Azul.
I was going to say
It's not
Walmart's.
Peking's. Walmart's, yeah, but those are mine. Just take your pick of the litter for mine.
That's very true and contextual, close to the heart.
Yeah.
Nick, what do you got?
Well, besides Walmart's, like the phrase, I could care less.
Oh, I had that one on my list.
Oh,
You could.
man.
You could tell us. Could you?
Yeah,
Could you
maybe.
really? I know. That is a great one. And to be honest, you don't know. Growing up, you just hear that. And I'm gonna start my. You done, Nick? I got a list. You ready? I'm gonna start my list off with another one that people say every single day. Supposedly. What? Supposedly. I said that for 20 years. Supposedly. And then you're like, huh, supposedly. I suppose that is correct.
Can you be a little bit more specific about what you're talking about?
No, that's God. We're knocking this one. I've got the one that I heard this week that spun this thought was realtor. It's realtor. There's no realtor. Yeah, you just call your realtor. I'm like, well, okay, I'll give it a shout. Some other ones, I don't want to take Seth. Seth, what you got? I know we put you on the spot. Tee it up.
So, I'm right here in the midst of it, surrounded by all this lovely language. And the one that comes to my mind is how people say the in front of everything. I'm going to go to the Taco Bell. I'm going to go to the Walmart, as if it is the only one on the planet.
It is. No, man, that's the only. Right now, it could be. You never know what's going on out there.
That's true.
The Walmarts.
The
Yeah,
Walmarts.
the
I know
Walmarts.
exactly which one you're talking about.
Yeah, it's down by the library.
That's it. That's the Walmarts.
Yeah.
I've also got, and this would tear that my dad, shout out to Bag, tournament.
Mm.
He crawls out of his skin when someone says NCAA tournament. He will throw the remote. Oh my gosh, he said tournament. This may be a product of where we were raised and our dialect, but if you say, like, we would say this word, Brian, FINANCE. Say that.
Finance.
Correct. If you say finance, I have a problem.
Oh yeah, yeah. Finance.
Financing.
Financier.
Financier. Maybe that's the French way. I don't know. I don't know if that word's French. It just grinds my. I think we're on to a steadfast segment. Grinds my gears. It's cathartic.
That
I
might
feel
be
better.
trademark.
Louder than when I sat down.
Yeah, that we were on a roll there. That felt just get on that out.
Last one and I'm done. Last one and I'm done. Irregardless. Wait, is that a real word?
I use that word.
I'm pretty sure irregardless is a word.
Scratch that. Cut. Irregardless.
Google it, Nick.
Shouldn't it be regardless of?
Maybe that.
Could
Google
be.
that.
Okay, Buster. Nick, do your thing. I'm gonna be wrong.
Irregardless.
This is my embarrassed face. Oh, it just means regardless. Maybe it's redundant.
Sometimes used in place of regardless or irrespective, which has caused controversy since the early 20th century, though the word appeared in print as early as 1795.
Okay, here's my saving grace. Look at the first Merriam-Webster link right there. Yes, we define irregardless as regardless. Many people find irregardless to be nonsensical. There we go. That's me. I find it to be nonsensical. Thank you, Merriam. Moving on. Okay, Seth. I don't know if we've talked about it on this show before, or this pod, but did you watch Tiger King?
I have not. I have followed enough social media that I feel like I understand it slightly, but I have not watched the show.
Well, Brian, you watch it.
Oh yeah, I think I watched it in like a day.
Nick, you hit it. Seth, I can tell you that it's 7 hours of your life that are better spent doing something else.
100%.
But there's some news that came out this week. There's actually two bits of news. The first being, for those of you that have seen the show, you know Joe Exotic ran for president instead of the Libertarian Party or Independent Party in the state of Oklahoma. He was forced to give over, I forget what percentage, I think it was 60 acres of his farm in Oklahoma to his mortal nemesis, Carol Baskin. So, had we not been in a nationwide pandemic and locked in with Netflix being the only thing on television, we would not really care about such a phenomenon. But this is huge because if you follow the series, he spends an exorbitant amount of money and time trying to make 16 acres is what she was awarded. Wow.
That's not a lot of room for all those animals.
That's probably, I think he has 200 some tigers. Think about how many, I wonder if it's just the land.
I wonder how much you could pay somebody to run through 16 acres full of tigers.
I don't know.
Just to see.
16 acres. So
that's a lot of tigers per acre.
Yeah,
I feel like that's a
what's the
disproportionate amount of tigers per
calculation
acre.
for square footage of jungle cat in steel cage? Oh, wow.
Jungle cat in a steel cage.
Oh, I was kidding. Jungle cat. Yeah. So, for those of you that did not see that news, we like to bring stuff to the table after it's been sitting for 2 or 3 days. So, I hope that finds you well and shocks you and sparks a reinterest back into your show.
I would just like to say real quick that after this is over, I'm going to go back and watch How to Catch a Humane Cat in a Steel Cage. There was a 4-minute and 23-second tutorial about that because Emily and I have a cat that I don't really care for, but she loves, and this could be what I've been looking for.
How to set a humane cat trap.
I mean, that is good information.
Yeah.
YouTube.
Yeah, I guess it would be.
And it's an 8-year-old video. You know it's the best out there.
Oh, it's quality.
Yeah, if it's still showing up on the top searches for that, it's up there.
Yeah.
Seth, this is how my brain works. These two know it, and you know it very well too. I'm just everywhere. This hat does a poor job at keeping me contained. But what are biblically, pastorally, don't call out anybody, what are some of your favorite mispronounced words in the Bible?
Oh, my.
Ooh.
Oh.
Ones that you hear and you go, okay, I understand what he's saying, but it really should be, or he or she is saying, but it should be. Oh.
Yeah. That's a good question. Nothing comes to my mind real quick. I guess I could think about it a little bit deeper. It's not a big deal, but a lot of people say the book of Revelations. It's actually the book of Revelation.
See, right on par.
That
I didn't know.
One.
I was probably 14 before I realized the book of Job was the book of Job.
Yeah. It's okay.
Yeah.
I mean, it could be Job. We could all be wrong.
That's the thing. We don't know.
Yeah. We got to have enough humility to say, hey, we could have got this wrong for 3,000 years.
No, that's not. We don't possess that. No.
Yeah, I can't really think of anything right now. Maybe it'll come to me by the end of the show.
I can't think of one either. I don't know why I would ask such a question, but as you are well aware, this is how I roll.
That's a tough. The Lord has placed me in a very grammatically sound church. So.
Oh.
I'm surrounded by English teachers and smart people.
So they keep you keyed up, huh?
They keep me keyed up. They keep me honest.
Yeah. That's great. That's awesome.
That's cool.
All right. We're going to move into the college basketball section. And so for those of you that really know Nick Kahn, you know that he's a closet Duke fan. He will say that he's not, but he used to kind of be a Duke fan. So I think we pulled him over to I think he's full-blown Wildcat now. Am I wrong, Nick?
No, you're right.
Okay, good.
Quite some time.
We worked on him from the time we were in middle school. We finally got him. We grabbed him. We stole him from the clutches of the Dukies. So I guess I just really need to apologize to Austin McKinney for the story I'm about to tell. But don't know if you guys have been keeping up. Zion Williamson is involved in a civil case right now with, I believe it's a marketing agency or a talent acquisition husband and wife team that pretty much sued him and are trying to get him to answer the question under oath whether or not he accepted improper benefits during his time at Duke. So this kind of stuff pops up all the time. You don't really... it'll pop up and it's a news topic for a couple of days and then a judge strikes it down. People get paid off, whatever. Duke's done this before. Corey Maggette blatantly took money. Everybody knows Corey Maggette took money and nothing really happened. So this one is significant because people that know say that it was blatant. Zion didn't try to hide it, lived in a huge house, had an extremely fancy car. Not to say that stuff couldn't have come from, a job on campus or something, but we're talking, exorbitant expenditures. But the judge that this went before said that he will have to testify under oath. So this is a big deal, especially for us Wildcat fans. Anybody out there listening, you obviously don't wish any harm on anybody involved, but I think we're going to get ready to see kind of the curtain has been in the process of being peeled back on college basketball for a couple of years. Starting with the whole Adidas thing, the shoe deals where they were paying players. But it's going to be exciting to see what happens. So, Seth, I know you keep up with college basketball. Do you think he took the money?
Well, there's a good possibility that he just simply worked part-time at the campus Starbucks and really did well.
I tried to not throw him under the bus, but the rumor is a white Bentley. So if you can get a Bentley at Starbucks, I will be there tomorrow.
Good
Their
tip.
espressos are pretty expensive.
Espresso, that's what it was. He makes the best espressos.
That's it.
That's what
Some
it was.
even say it jump starts their day.
Oh, that's good. Nick, what do you think?
I mean, I feel like a lot of them are now. You know, I feel like this is one of the main starting points of them starting. Be like, okay, there's something has to be done. Which I don't know about after the pandemic and the money. We'll see. But
so the important thing to watch is going to be, so he's been summoned that he has to testify under oath. Summoned's probably the wrong word. My lovely wife and legal counsel will listen to this and let me know that I sound not very intelligent. But he's been ordered to answer the question under oath. So it's going to be important to watch and say, if this just goes away, presumably that couple is asking for $5 million in hush money. So that's a lot of cheddar. So part of me is like, I believe that Kentucky does a great job and does not cheat and do that and benefit players in that way. So you want to see Duke fall down because we all hate Duke. But another part of me, like you said, Nick, is I think this is going to open the curtain and we may find out some stuff. All fan bases, fans of college basketball, I think you may find stuff out that
it depends on, I guess, really who paid him. Like, was it the school or was it Nike?
Mm-hmm.
Well, here's a question that I have. Not that long ago, or not that many years ago, I believe it was that Sebastian, what was his name? Sebastian Telfair?
Telfair, yep.
Didn't he have an instance where he was talking about how there were nights where he was going hungry and wasn't getting adequate food? So is it possible that this is just, what school was he at then? Do you guys remember?
He was going to go to Louisville, right, Nick?
I think so, but he went somewhere else.
I think he was headed to Louisville because Will was gassed up about Sebastian Telfair. He was headed to Louisville, and then something happened.
Maybe this wasn't Sebastian Telfair. This was more recent than this. This has just been a few years ago. I wish.
Shabazz Napier.
Yeah,
UConn.
That's who it was. Yeah, so UConn. So do you think that this is going to be certain schools that do this or certain players that just benefit from this as opposed to, all big schools doing it for all of their players?
I don't know.
Because there's definitely, because these schools and the NCAA make so much money off of college basketball, and so do the companies involved. Adidas makes, any company related to that makes an exorbitant amount of money.
Yeah.
And part of that is marketing, and these players, that's what they use to market, and they don't get paid to play. I think college basketball players should get paid.
Yeah.
I think they should have an insurance, they should be given insurance.
Yeah.
Because you see, especially with football players, a lot of football athletes will be great. One that comes to mind to me is Marcus Lattimore.
Mm-hmm.
He blew both of his knees out, and his career was over.
Gosh, man. He still made the pros, but he wasn't. It was over.
Yeah,
you're right.
Yeah, he made it to the 49ers. Actually, got him, and they cut him. I think he coaches now, but he was so good. He was such a good player, and his whole career was ended.
Yeah.
And he doesn't have they don't have insurance. They're not getting money, so he wasn't able to save and really kind of prepare. Yeah. So I think that's kind of how these schools and these companies do with these athletes. They pay them.
Seth?
Yeah, back to Zion, I hope the best for him. He seems to be a solid guy. I saw where he paid the salary for a lot of the workers during this time, which I thought was a really good move. I try to put myself in that situation, as highly touted as he was, probably the most touted guy since LeBron.
Absolutely.
And you got people offering you all this stuff. I mean, just think about the pressure that he was under. It's really kind of hard to fathom that. What was he, 18? Was he 18 last year? An 18-year-old kid basically is being swept up in all this. Not to say that if he took that thing, I mean, he still did wrong, but I guess I would give more grace to a guy like that. I wouldn't come down as hard.
Yeah, and I think that's what I don't think. I mean, we're getting ready to see what kind of loyalty that he's got to his program because, I mean, seemingly, guys, there's no skin off his back. Mm-hmm. Like he's not going to be punished. They're going to ask him a question. If he chooses to answer, he's saving $5 million, and then it'll happen with whatever happens with Duke happens with Duke. But I mean, we're getting ready to see what kind of relationship I guess he, and how he feels about his time there. But I agree, Seth. I mean, I don't know if you know this, but they offered me a bunch of money coming out of high school too, and things just didn't work out.
I was in the Hummer with you one time when you got a call from Campbellsville coach, and I could have swore I heard him say like $8,000, but I didn't know what that was about.
Yeah, he was actually saying that's what you owe before you can come play here.
That's it.
Well,
that's exactly right. Yeah, and I also remember going on the field with you at UK. I think it was either sophomore, junior year, and I believe, if I'm not mistaken, the punter handed you a crisp $100 bill to put in your pocket.
Yes, that is big facts. He owed me. We had a game. We had an inside deal. Mm-hmm. If he pinned Mississippi State inside the 20 3 times in a row, I would pay him, and he only did it twice, so he had to pay me. So that's, of course, my account. So. But no, that was a lot of fun. I forgot about that, Seth. That was the wildest man in show business was our chauffeur that evening. He dressed in clothes straight out of 1975. Shout out to my grandfather, who will never listen to this.
So many cigars were smoked in the vehicle that I now have no use of my left lung.
Yeah, Seth actually has 80% lung capacity since that trip. Yeah. That's how much secondhand smoke happened. And I was probably 17, and I was having to plead with a man in his 60s that you could not smoke a cigar in Commonwealth Stadium.
Yeah, it was worth it. It was all worth it.
Yeah. So, great story.
Yeah.
Great story. Okay. So, stay on the lookout for that. See what happens. We don't wish ill on anybody, but if it's going to happen to anybody, we could be okay if it happened to Duke. I mean, whatever. So, on that same subject, I announced today NBA owners have agreed upon a condensed schedule to take place. Nick, I'm going to need your help here. I believe it begins in July, if I read that correctly. Here we go. 22 teams returning for the NBA postseason.
How many total teams are there?
Ooh.
30, I think.
30?
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds good. I don't know. And I didn't oh, wow. Okay,
come on, guys. Come
on. Can I save more money on car insurance by switching to Geico?
You sure can.
Okay. Who is this guy? No, I'm kidding. So that's exciting. It's going to be. I'm interested for two reasons. Number one, live sports. Thank you. Injected into my veins. July 31st. That's an eternity from right now. Jeez, wars were fought and lost in that amount of time.
You act like the last 6 months hasn't flown by.
Well, I mean, don't break the news to me. Tell me I got to wait 48 days. It's like just, oh man.
I don't know.
We have to wait for this month's. We have to wait for this month's like crazy thing.
Yeah.
It's just started. We have to, and then next month we got to wait through all of next month's crazy thing too. Who knows?
You may never dribble again.
Just think the locust will be here by the time the NBA season starts.
For real.
Seth, is it frogs next?
That is the biblical pattern. And also large boils on the skin. So,
my good.
Good thing we all stocked up on our PPE.
Yeah.
Yes, that's
Vitamin
true.
D.
And I'll just go ahead and tell you, when the sky gets dark in the middle of the day, PPE ain't going to help us.
Yeah.
We're in trouble.
Yep. Oh, okay. I forgot. Oh, we're excited. Live sports. We want it injected into our veins. Secondarily, I'm interested to see what kind of shape these guys stayed in.
Well, I was
think
getting
it's
ready to
fun.
say,
Like normalizing somebody, humanizing, like James Harden or Russell Westbrook being like, okay, these guys are normal. They only scored 21 points tonight instead of 75 had they played the entire season.
I was
Westbrook
getting
is
ready to
still
say,
triple-double.
Yeah.
like, what do you
2020.
think's going to happen as far as, because, their schedules are smaller and these guys seemingly have been off for so long and they're going to be practicing a lot. Is this going to make some players better than others? Like, significantly, they've been playing the whole season and scoring like 70 points. Like, do you think that's legitimately going to be a big thing?
I think we're going to see, and to steal one out of Old Al's book of isms here, BT dub, which is balls to the wall. I think you're going to see basketball that is going to be exciting. It's going to be like, I think they're going to get a great review on this because, the talk before all this, they were, Kawhi is famous for load management, taking a Tuesday off, whatever that is. So you got 22 teams, you got a condensed schedule, everything's on the line. It's essentially the playoffs, just a different version of the playoffs. So I think it's going to be.
So everybody's just going to be going hard.
Yeah, I think it's going to be exciting.
It's like going to be gym ball.
Yeah, I think you could compare it to a Monday night at 6:30 at Archer Park Gym.
Yeah.
The 8:30 crowd. It wouldn't be the 8:30 crowd. It'd be the 6:30 crowd.
Oh yeah. I am a little concerned that there could be quite a few injuries.
Yeah, that's another point.
Guys aren't going to be in good shape, and I think you're exactly right. They're going to beat and bang. It's going to be like Bill Laimbeer and the '90s Pistons out there.
Bad boys.
It is. They're going to want to hit somebody. They've been off for so long.
And you know what? They have to let them. You just got to let them. You can't be. Don't be blowing that. We can't be doing that, Andy. We can't be doing that.
Can't be doing it. Hey, I do want to make a bold prediction on the air.
Oh.
The Lakers win the championship over the Bucks, I think, in 5, simply because LeBron James has not taken a day off since all this started.
Yeah.
He has a home gym in L.A. He's as fired up as anybody.
I think it's destiny, too. You know what we forget in all this? Kobe died this year.
There you go. Yeah. Yep. And The Last Dance came out, so he's got to get the last one.
Dude, I fell asleep watching it. I've still not finished that. I've got a couple episodes. I don't know if you listened to episode 4, Seth.
Not all of it.
Did you hear the Scottie Pippen story?
No, I didn't.
We are big Chicago Bulls fans on this podcast. Let's just say me and Scottie are tight.
Oh, I knew about that. Yeah.
Little plug for you. Little plug.
Yeah. He's got the coolest voice. He is Mr. Cool.
If you're into demons, yes. I'm just kidding. I know exactly what you mean. You can't believe it's that deep. Like it sounds like it should be hurting him when he speaks. Like there's no way you think like, man, you need a Ludens or something, But it is, and it's that deep in person too. I mean, what's on Last Dance and the way he talks, it seems to just be getting deeper. But, I envy that.
Yeah, it's impressive.
As the songbird of my generation, I can only hope to go an octave lower when I get that old. So
I'd love to be able to preach in that monotone. I mean, it would just blow the speakers out of our sanctuary.
Oh, you'd have to reinforce your bass. You'd have like kickers everywhere.
You could get yourself like a soundproof room that you do your preaching in, so it like can contain. It can contain it.
You'd wrap windows.
Yeah.
Oh man, yeah. So for those of you that may have picked up Holler Pod on episode 5, be sure to check out episode 4, where we hit on Scottie Pippen. Brian, that's all the news.
Called a callback.
A callback, yes. He's still not texting me. I gave him my number, and I told him anytime he comes to town again, let me know. I'll take him tally ho or whatever. But he's not texting me, so
Well,
I'm sure it's coming.
Yeah.
Yeah, he'll probably hear this and be like, "Oh yeah, I forgot to text that Alex guy."
Yeah. So.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I saw where he subscribed.
Yeah, actually.
Yeah.
A large part of this is due to Scotty. Yeah, really. He just drove us to ramble on incoherently about things that have been in the news for 2 to 3 days by the time we report them.
Just give it time to simmer. That's what you guys do.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, season. The correct word would be season. We
right.
let it season.
Hey, crock pot meals are better than a microwave. So you guys just let it sit in the crock pot, and then by the time you get that delicious smell is just ready.
We are the cast iron skillets of the podcast world. Yeah. You don't wash it off. You just let it sit there, and 3 days after the fact, it's better than it was 3 days before.
That's right.
So,
100%.
I mean, I'll just tell you, NPR might be number one, but you guys are a close second.
Thank you, Seth.
I mean, actually, I don't know if I'd put a number on it. I think we're at the same level at this point.
It's a letter at that point, 1 and 1A.
That's exactly right. And it flip-flops every week. Who's the A?
Bingo, bango.
Yeah. So
I think that you should. We should put that as a stamp of approval.
I think so. I mean, I'll be honest. This is big for me personally, for my ministry. One of my deacons contacted me today and asked if I was going to be on a webinar tonight. I said, I'll be on a friend's podcast, and it's pretty much nationally syndicated. So this is...
You ain't right. That's great. That's awesome. Seth, I got to ask, and I'm glad everybody takes a deep breath when I have to ask. What's it like ministering to the childhood rivals of the Prestonsburg Black Cats?
Dude, it's tough. I am the chaplain for Paintsville High School.
You traitor.
I know.
No, I'm kidding.
And they presented me this past season with a signed football. The whole team signed it. It's right here in my office. I mean, irony of ironies. I'm married to a Tiger. I minister to Tigers. It is. Well, you know what, though? This is like Prestonsburg North right now.
You know what? I'm glad you said that.
Because like 9 out of the 11 starters last year were from Peaburg. So
that's true.
It's okay for that reason.
No, that's awesome. Like you said, Prestonsburg North, we actually know a lot of those kids. They grew up in Prestonsburg.
Yeah.
And some of them actually still live in Prestonsburg.
They do. And man, they are super good athletes. I mean, Prestonsburg would have been loaded if those guys would have stayed.
Yeah.
Loaded.
That's tough to swallow.
But I know you do too. I love Coach Jericho. I'm so happy to be his chaplain and to be with him. He's a super good guy.
Mm-hmm. Jam up, dude.
Yep.
Well, of course, we're just joking. The Tigers, if I was going to pick an enemy that I would side with immediately, be them before anyone else. Not Pikeville, not Belfry, not nobody, not never.
Yep.
The Tigers are okay in my book. My sister went there. I think. I don't remember.
I think that's correct.
Okay. Thank you. That's good.
I'm
kidding. That. It's a great school. Great group of teachers. Their chaplain is a decent guy.
I've been hearing a lot of buzz about their chaplain.
Yeah, he's a real page turner.
No, we joke. That's awesome. So we're gonna transition here, Seth, and I'd like to get the news out of the way, get things real joyful and make people laugh, and I think I'm out of content, but we're gonna turn it over to Brian, who is prepared for an episode of Biblical Proportions.
100%. So Seth, I don't know if you know this, but we also have a little subsection called the grassy knoll.
Yeah, that's what terrifies me, honestly.
Well, here on the grassy knoll, we just go out in the weeds.
Yeah.
Just kind of explore a few different ideas about some things that people might not normally think to explore.
Sure.
So being a minister during a global pandemic, historically, how has the church dealt with global catastrophe, global pandemics, things of that nature? Like, is there stuff that you personally have leaned on from the past or learned on and kind of tried to implement to today's world, or maybe learned from past mistakes, stuff like that?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I love church history. So just from some studies in my past, it's really clear that the church has always dealt with global pandemics. In around 250, there was a pandemic that swept through the Roman Empire that the church had to deal with. Obviously, the plague from the 13th century, really lasting, I think, in some places till the 17th century. Jeez. A lot of the reformers had to deal with the effects of the plague, which were just unbelievable.
Devastating.
And then in the 19th century, especially in places where industrialization was starting to happen, you saw some outbreaks of things like cholera and typhus and diphtheria, those kind of things that the church had to deal with then. And what seems to be true throughout church history is that the church has often led the way in their response to catastrophe and pandemic, not medically, but compassionately, if that makes sense. The church has led the way in caring for the sick, in really laying down their life to take care of those who are affected. And just a really quick story, back in the 250s when that plague or whatever it was swept through the Roman Empire, the Christians were severely persecuted for their faith. And there's a letter that still exists to this day from a Roman, I don't know if it was from the emperor, I don't know who it was from, but it was to a certain colony. And basically he said, you guys need to get your act together because the Christians are showing you up. In other words, the Christians are taking care not only of the other sick Christians, but they're taking care of the sick pagans. And a lot of the pagans were converting to Christianity simply because of the way Christians were taking care of them in the midst of that pandemic. And so I think that that's always been true of the church. I hope that it's true right now in what we've faced in these last few months. But historically, at least, Christians have handled these circumstances well.
That's really cool. That's really cool.
What is it? And I mean, we all grew up in the Bible Belt, Seth.
Yeah.
The buckle. Yeah, right in the buckle. So I mean, we are very fortunate to have had that upbringing. Yeah. So to me, a great place of comfort is my church. Yeah. When things are the worst, that's where you go the most. You need to be the most, So it was, I don't want to get political, but it was hard to stomach the fact that we could go to the grocery store, but we couldn't gather for church during this pandemic,
Yeah. Yeah.
So, I mean, how do you, what was I don't even know what I'm trying to say. How did they convey that message to you? What is the governing authority for you guys? Who says you can't open these doors on Sunday? And how was that message conveyed and upheld, I guess?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, honestly, the only way for me as a local church pastor to know what to do was to listen to Andy every day at 5.
Yeah.
And there were days, I'm sure you guys were listening to some of that too, in which churches needed instruction and we didn't get it. And so Scripture tells us to be submissive to the governing authorities and the law of the land because, as Paul says in Romans 13, government is a minister for our good. And so churches want to be submissive to the government insofar as it does not violate our right to worship. And I know we could have a long, lengthy discussion about this, and there's probably a lot of people who feel a lot of different ways, but I think the time is now clearly here in the United States, and certainly even in the Bible Belt, in which churches are going to be targeted. I think that if you can have people in a grocery store, if you can have, as one guy told me here at the church, you can have 17 people in line at Lowe's on a Sunday morning, but you can't have Sunday morning worship. Guys, churches are being targeted. And it might not be intentionally said, but it's what's not being said that scares me, honestly. And so we're now back to worshiping in person, but we tried to be as submissive as possible to the government because that's what I felt like we should do. But if we were in somewhere like California where they're still facing this kind of pressure, I think I would go ahead and reconvene.
Yeah. And it's communicated under the guise of, you think about a demographic, an age group of a person that is, would be most affected. And then they would say, where does that person, convene more than one time a week, whether that be choir practice or Sunday school, whatever that is. And I understand, that measure that's put in place. But I mean, all of us on here would know someone that may be in that age group and would be more comfortable at her church with her church family or with his church family than at home, shuttered in, thinking that the end of the world may, not knowing what to receive from the news media. I mean, it's a tough spot, dude. I don't know.
It is. It really is. And, this has affected more than just physical well-being. It's affected mental health.
Yeah, absolutely.
And people rely on the church for their mental health. And so you take that away, that's going to have ripple effects throughout every aspect of society.
Yeah.
That's a good point too.
And we might get into it later, I don't know, but I really believe that part of the reason we're seeing so much fury and rage across our country is because of the state of mental health and because the only safe haven in our society, namely the local church, has been closed.
Yeah.
It makes, it does not surprise me whatsoever that evil is kind of running rampant because the church has not been able to be there.
We are a shocked nation.
There's no order to the chaos.
Yeah.
Right.
We are a shocked nation that for 4 months, AA meetings have been closed and liquor stores have been open, and there are people running around seemingly on fire.
Yep. Yeah.
Seth, what can you say about like the media manipulation during all of this as well? Like, because the CDC numbers have just came out and the death rate is very low.
Yeah.
And that they have caused, like you said, churches to close, stuff like that. Is that stuff that you guys look at? And is there anything that we can, like, in the Bible that talks about that or anything?
Yeah, I think that there is, in the fact that Paul tells us in Ephesians 6 that we wage a warfare that's not against flesh and blood, but is against a spiritual enemy. And in Ephesians 6, he talks about the demons have a rank and order, and there are certain, you might say, high-level demons who infiltrate even levels of government and high positions in our society. And this is not me saying that I believe our politicians and corrupt media moguls are demon-possessed. I'm not saying that, but I am saying that there is spiritual warfare going on in which a media that dictates the narrative and politicians that act the way they do, there's more than just a flesh and blood problem. This is a spiritual reality. And ultimately, from Scripture, we know that what's happening, not just in America, but throughout the world, this is simply setting the stage for the Antichrist to come. This, as we see the way persecution is now sweeping into the United States of America and will continue to get worse, things are just unfolding just as Jesus said that they would. And I think the media and all that's happening, we used to study the bourgeois and the intelligentsia back in, 8th grade and 9th grade social studies and how all that works in government. It's not what we can see that's the issue. It's what's going on behind the scenes.
Yeah.
And whatever's happening between the connection between the media and the political realm, that is a scary reality. So I don't know if there's anything really we can do about it.
Well, as far as this goes, this is sort of a hypothetical, but and I totally agree that there are demonic entities at play in high-ranking members of, the government and the media, and with that influence, that dark influence there, and it's being projected out, this constant fear, and over really what has turned out to be nothing as far as COVID, but they had everybody so scared and, like you said, locked in and churches closed. Do you think that is a direct result of that kind of influence?
I do because Jesus calls Satan the father of lies.
Yeah, he's deception. That's their whole game.
That's right. And so we shouldn't be surprised to be deceived by these kind of entities that have some kind of spiritual demonic involvement. I truly believe that deception's at the core of this thing, and it's really, our society is at the place now where they don't know what to believe, they don't know who to believe, and there is no standard of absolute truth anymore. We are as postmodern as it can possibly get, and if you don't have a standard of absolute truth, which flows into a standard of morality, then you don't even have a standard of justice. That's the reason people can't find justice, is because there is no standard of truth.
Seth, have you ever read any Nietzsche?
Yeah, a little bit.
He has the quote, and it's people never finish the quote. It's God is dead, and the end of the quote is, and we've killed him. And it's kind of what you're talking about as far as society has lost that moral code, and things are able to run rampant. Yeah, God is dead, God remains dead, and we have killed him. How shall we comfort ourselves?
Like Alex.
That's right, man. Episode 1.
But he also has this concept of like the Uberman, and it is about self-growth and self-reflection, and his whole thing was that moral code of the Bible as a way to advance. So do you think that we will see from all of this, because I feel like a lot of people are waking up to the fact that the media, especially in politicians, are manipulated, and they manipulate things. Do you think that we're going to see like a resurgence within the church, and maybe some new progressive, stuff like that as far as the church goes?
It's hard to say. I think what you're going to see is people who were on the fringe of the church to begin with are going to kind of drift away. People who have genuine faith in the Lord Jesus, I think that we're going to see them strengthened. I think
weeding out.
Yeah. And I think historically, you could look at somewhere like Scotland. Scotland is 40 years ahead of us in terms of secularization. And the effects that has had, this kind of Nietzschean philosophy has had in Scotland, has been absolutely frightening for the church, in the sense that people have left the church and then turned on the church almost on a dime. It's not that people are going to run away from the church and just say, hey, you guys do what you do, but for us, we're going to go this way. It's now we're going to step away from you and turn on you.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what we're going to see. And this whole Nietzschean philosophy, I mean, it doesn't come out of a vacuum. It's been very much alive, and I think it's going to come to life even more in the days ahead.
Mm-hmm.
We talk about, media and politics, and I mean, objectively, all of us go back to third grade, right?
Yeah.
Fourth grade, your loudest kid in your class is a troublemaker, right? Right, knows the least, doesn't know when to hush, always in trouble. I've heard my entire life, the quietest man in the room is the strongest. So that's an important parable story to keep in mind, to say, look, they're going to try to obliterate your critical thinking or any faith-based thinking that you have, and beliefs that you may have founded.
Yeah.
But it's just literacy. I mean, you can't. They want to obliterate your critical thinking. So, I mean, now more than ever, like you said, people are turning, and that's where we're at in society. So, I mean, I'm preaching to the choir, but
preach on, brother.
What you said about Scotland, that's where we're at now. You guys
Yeah.
do your thing. It's just not my fit. I'm gonna go do this. That's where we're at.
Yeah. Yeah, you're exactly right. The sad thing is it just doesn't stay there. You grow from that position of uninvolvement to hostility.
Yep.
And I'd like to get your all's opinion on this because growing up, all of us in the Bible Belt, you're familiar with this, but I'd like to see what you think about it. I tell our church all the time that our world, especially now our country, has this conception that Christians are people of faith, and therefore that means that they don't think, like you're talking about. They don't have critical thinking. They have taken their brain out and put it under the seat, and they're just leaning on the life, death, and resurrection of Jesus as a crutch. Now, that's a conception that I think a lot of people have of Christians. But when we open our Bibles, what we find is argumentation, propositions, evidence, proof, eyewitnesses. What the Apostle Paul says to Festus as he testifies before this high-ranking Roman official, he gives him the gospel of the Lord Jesus, and then he says, what I'm telling you is true and rational words. Festus tried to say, Paul, you're out of your mind. And Paul responds by saying, I'm not out of my mind. I'm not irrational. I am critically thinking. And what I'm presenting to you is true and rational. And I think that one of the way our society tries to attack the church is simply by telling us that we're people who don't use our brains. Everybody else in society thinks deeply about life. But the church, you guys just don't think. You just try to have this thing called faith. But faith is always rational. It always stands to reason, right? I believe that Jesus Christ is Lord and Savior, not because it's some kind of fairy tale story that I tell my kids, but because, as Scripture says, over 500 people saw him risen from the dead.
100%.
And these people don't die for lies. Who in the world would give up their life, be nailed to a Roman cross for a myth? You'd be crazy to do that. So, but if you see a man risen from the dead who claims to be the Son of God, Son of Man, Lord and Savior, well, yeah, he's worth giving your life for. And so I think that's the message that the church is going to have to drill down in the coming days, is that we're not irrational. We have proof, we have evidence. If people will just take some time and seriously reason this out, I think that they can find that this is true.
Come on now.
Seth,
my granny said, if I don't get your fire burning, your wood's wet.
Yeah, a little caveat from that. I know what that's, like on a conspiratorial side, getting, if you can have evidence and show people things, but that you get called crazy. And I think that's sort of kind of the same thing.
Yeah.
Just from a different angle.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the conspiracy stuff overlaps with biblical stuff. And there's a lot of correlation there. And I think it is sort of like a psyop to make people that are rational thinkers and have evidence-based stuff to make them sound crazy. Because, it is fantastic. Like, it's a wonder. It's a miracle. Like, that's not something you see every day. It is something kind of crazy and magical. And since that's not everyday thing for people, they can't really fathom, that it's real.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of a problem.
Yeah, you're exactly right. I preached on the resurrection on Easter Sunday, and part of what I preached on was when Jesus rises from the dead, the Jewish leaders, the religious authorities who had him crucified, who handed him over to Pilate, they posted a Roman guard with a Roman seal on the tomb. If you remember the story, an angel from heaven comes to roll the stone away, and those guards basically pass out because of fear. Now they get up and they change their breeches, and then they go back to the Roman authorities. No, I'm sorry, to the Jewish authorities. They don't want to go back to Pilate because they know he'll put them to death because they failed. They go back to the Jewish authorities, and this is what Scripture says. It says that immediately they started to craft a story that they could spread around to people to deceive them. In other words, they
Deception.
They knew they've got a real resurrection on their hands. But what do? They don't even take time to investigate that. They immediately start to craft a deceptive story. You tell me there is nothing new under the sun.
It's the great deceiver.
That's exactly what we're dealing with today.
Yeah.
Because people reason this out like, okay, this is true, but I can't believe it, so I'm just going to try to deceive myself and others. So
there's a selfish. I mean, that is human, and that is an innate characteristic of humanity since the beginning of time. Yep. And it is something that I have to work. You can be an honest person, and you can screw up, but you are lying to yourself if the first 2 milliseconds of your thought in your brain about why you screwed up is not to try to blame somebody else. You're lying. That takes work and practice and prayer to be humble, to be a humble person, to say, this is why this happened. I'll own this.
Yeah.
But that's just, we are wired that way.
Absolutely. I'm convinced that the greatest virtue that we can possess is humility. It takes humility to come to Christ as Savior. It takes humility to say, I'm a sinner, that there's something wrong with me, that I'm guilty before a holy God. It takes humility to serve other people and admit our wrongs. And yet, we are in the selfie generation. Right? We're in the generation who looks down upon humble people.
Yeah, now more than ever.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And absolutely. Back to the quietest man in the room piece, I enjoy social media because it allows me to, we are no longer in the same place every day. We don't see each other every day. It allows me to connect. I get to check in on Seth's, newest born child. Congratulations.
Thank you.
I get to see that kind of stuff. It brings joy to my heart. I get to, see Brian's hiking at 4 a.m. Nick's in his kayak. I get to see all that stuff. That's stuff I get to see. But the negative piece of that is the people who are always the loudest are usually incorrect in my book. And what has social media done? It's you've given them a 5,000-foot tower with the biggest megaphone in the world. Mm-hmm. And it's an alternate reality. It's an alternate universe. It's good for what I mentioned earlier, but it's not reality.
Yeah. That's so true. That is a good analogy. That's solid.
Yeah.
I've been working on that one, Seth.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, when I think of the loudest guy in the room, you know who I think of?
Me.
No. Well,
okay, maybe. Good. I thought you were
you're second. I think of Byron Thacker.
Class clown. Great dude.
Yeah, he was.
You know what? This is going to sound so weird. You know what I remember about Byron Thacker?
No.
He, for whatever reason, had his tongue clipped.
He did.
You remember that?
I do.
Yeah.
He had like a Gene Simmons tongue. Yeah, dude.
Yeah.
Wow.
I remember that. So, Seth, I got kind of a random question for you.
Okay. Are we still on the grassy knoll? I just want to be.
We can be little snakes in the grass of the knoll.
Okay. Hey, I do want to say 2 years ago I had to go to the SBC in Dallas. Emily and I went and toured the JFK Museum. Basically, they've turned it in that you can go right to the spot where the shot happened. They've turned that whole book depository, and then you can walk on the grassy knoll. It is a chilling experience.
I can't imagine.
I bet
that's one thing I would love to do.
It's really cool.
That is cool.
It was just one bullet, Seth, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it bounced off the pavement.
You guys seen The Irishman?
Yeah.
No.
You have seen it, Seth?
Yeah, well, yeah, I know what you're talking about. With Matthew McConaughey?
No, that's the Gentleman.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
The Irishman is on Netflix, and it's about It's about the mob's involvement in the death of Jimmy Hoffa, but one of the pieces of that book is the mob's involvement to off JFK. And it's not mentioned in the movie, but it's mentioned in the book that the Irishman, Frank Sheeran, was the one that hand-delivered 3 Carcano rifles to some gentleman in Dallas to take care of an issue.
Wow.
Well, let me hit you with this one. The same day that John F. Kennedy was in Dallas,
Abraham Lincoln. Have
George
you seen that on Facebook?
H.W. Bush.
Don't go there.
George H.W. Bush, whose CIA call sign was Timberwolf, was in Dallas. Bob Dylan just came out with a song about the death of John F. Kennedy, and he mentions that the Wolfman did it.
I need to say what you're thinking so I can verbally accost you.
That is heavy.
Murder most foul. See if you can find Wolfman.
Say it. I want you to say it. What are you saying?
Oh, H.W. Bush was involved in the assassination of John F. Kennedy.
Off of here. Mute him right now.
100%.
Hang up on him. Hang
Alex.
A servant of this country, a resume more in depth than anybody in public service. A great American.
Wolfman, oh Wolfman howl. Rub-a-dub-dub, it's a murder most foul. I'm telling you, he was involved.
Do the math. When was he born? When was H.W. born? Nick.
Alex, I can send you the CIA document that shows that it's an internal memo written by him.
When did he die? 69? No, 64.
11/21/60. 11/22/60 what? Guys, I promise.
No, it would have been 63. Kennedy died in 60.
I think it was 63. Wasn't
63. Yeah, 11/22/63.
We are in
I'm telling you.
This is what happens, Seth.
Man. Hey, can I just say this? Bob Dylan could have been talking about the Wolf Brothers.
I had thought that too, but they are WULFE.
Please do not encourage that type of behavior. Dude, you talk about a show that transcended. We saw them as kindergartners, and they performed for us as seniors in high school.
Man, and they were just as good. They never lost a beat.
Oh.
I bet they're liquid millionaires.
Oh, you know it.
I don't know.
Nick, before I get a temperature and my blood pressure shoots through the top of my head, Google the Wolf Brothers. WULFE. There you go. About us? No way. There they. Oh, the middle.
Oh, look at them. Look at them.
Oh, there they are.
Unreal.
With the matching shocks, the Nike shocks.
Man, what is that guy wearing on his belt?
Related?
Yeah, they're raised by the same mother wolf.
We have been duped.
Right there, your squad that took out JFK, boys.
Look at Soul's eyes over there on the left.
These are the real guys on the knoll.
They are not related. I am shook. More so than HW killing JFK.
Wait, they live in Louisville, Kentucky?
Well, that makes sense.
I bet they're going to sell out the Yum Center after all this has died down.
Hey, Lexington, Kentucky booking actually served as a home base for them.
The Caribbean?
They opened for Three Dog Night. Get out of town, Georgia Brown. Kentucky Anna's longest running full-time band. Full house band. Shout out Mary Wright.
Man, their day job is performing educational programs.
I bet they're leaving.
These guys are pretty.
Somebody saw their van. I saw on social media. I don't know who it was. Was it my brother? Somebody sent a picture the other day on Snapchat of the. My goodness, what is that? Right there, that one.
Look at that middle. Oh my word!
Gravy train to heaven.
Who is
Holy moly! That's Al Pacino, isn't
that? And Kenny Rogers.
I am shook, boy.
I will say that he has taken some of that liquid gold for a few facial surgeries.
I am shook. I am okay. Wow.
Mm.
Weddings. They do weddings? Brian, you're married.
Yeah.
We got to do this.
We still haven't hired a band.
That's because this is an omen. Oh, come on. You and Melissa out there dancing to the Wolf Brothers?
Oh, they provide the mother-son dance, Brian.
Son dance. Yeah.
Oh, this is, I'm going to get on this.
I'm going to get on this. The Wolf Brothers as icing on the cake.
They have to do the same set, though. Actually, I'm going to take a picture of this.
Please do not.
Scroll back down. Let me get a picture of the.
I mean, the pictures on the right look pretty popping, Brian.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got it. That's documented. We'll get. See what I can do.
Okay, let's go back to Kennedy. I've calmed down.
Alex, I'm telling you, man. I can send you. I'll send you some documents.
You believe that?
I know he was involved.
To what avail?
It goes back to this evidence-based thing that Seth was talking about. There's enough evidence. There's enough evidence to show that he was somehow involved. And the extent of that, you can think what you want, but I think there's enough evidence there to say that it was direct involvement in it.
You want to know? I'll tell you why he was off. Do you want to know why he was off?
Well, let's hear it.
The mob got him elected, right? Joe Kennedy paid off the mafia to get Jack elected. Okay, that's pretty widely known. Joe used the mafia to bootleg and facilitate the infiltration of Canadian whiskey into the United States. Every bottle sold, the Kennedys got a kickback on. That's how they made their money. So Joe utilized the mafia to get Jack elected in 60, right? Is that right? 50, 60, whatever.
Yeah.
The mafia was utilized to provide the guns and ammunition for the Bay of Pigs invasion, which flopped.
You know who had a oil tanker in Cuba, around Cuba at that time?
Don't say it.
George
The Wolfman?
Herbert Walker Bush.
Mm-mm.
Objective facts. Moving on. Bay of Pigs went south. Guns, men were lost. Jack appoints Bobby as the what position did he have? Attorney General. Sorry, it's been late. I've been cutting grass. Jack appoints Bobby as Attorney General. Young prep school kid immediately goes after organized crime. Okay, to this point, nobody had touched organized crime. Didn't know what organized crime was. It was just the way you did business. Bobby goes after organized crime. Keeps going after half of the unions, XYZ, to the point that action has to be taken. So instead of offing Bobby, which would have surely brought down retaliation from Jack, the most powerful man in the country, they took out the president.
That's a good cover theory, like a good cover story.
Which in turn made Hoffa feel as if he was invincible. So
he was probably told he would be made invincible.
He did not go off quietly into the night, hence the movie The Irishman and the role that the mafia played in offing and disposing of one of the most prolific murders in American history.
So I'm going to just really quick caveat here. You know the guy, Jack Ruby, right?
I do.
So I don't know if you remember this or not, but Jack Ruby was investigated, or he was interviewed.
Yes.
The day before by a guy named Jolly West.
Yep. I listened to the Tom O'Neill.
Yeah.
And he was hallucinating, and it was off his rocker and XYZ.
Yes. So Jolly West was a CIA agent who was working on mind control.
Mm-hmm. Operation Midnight, stuff like that.
Okay, so there's another connection to the CIA. George Herbert Walker Bush. I'm pretty sure. See if he was the head of the CIA then, Nick. I don't think he was the head.
In the 60s. I think it was.
I think he was in the 70s. Yeah, he was.
Garogi.
87. Yeah, he's 80s. Oh, wait, no. I was looking at Webster.
I thought he ran the FBI. I didn't know he.
Yeah, he was the head of the CIA. Just see when H.W. Bush was head of the CIA.
6'2". He was 6'2". The 11th director.
The 70s, yeah. But he was a high-ranking agent in the 60s. And so, again, I'm sure he used the mafia in some ways. I mean,
you think what benefit was it of him to kill the president?
So, a couple of, I want to say,
it's also fitting that in this segment of the Grassy Knoll, we are literally speaking about.
I'll have a standalone about the JFK stuff because there's a lot of information there. But a couple of months before JFK was assassinated, he's got a speech. It's not very well known, but he mentions not only that he would tear the CIA into 1,000 pieces and scatter it to the wind, but also that secret societies play a significant role in the government and in the country and manipulation of people, and he was going to expose them. And then a few months later, he was shot and killed. And there are, you have to set up and covers. That's the CIA is deception. That's their game, and they do it well.
You ever seen Homeland?
Anyway, no, I haven't.
This is all really way over my head and completely sent me into a mental oblivion. But because I think you guys know something about this, am I not mistaken in saying that at his funeral, HW's funeral, something strange happened with the family? They were handed envelopes.
Only certain people got the envelopes.
Right. Could that have any connection?
100%. 100%.
I don't know anything about this.
So, okay. So, Seth, you're going to love this. So,
we just do this place. All long.
Yes. Listen, dude, this is going to be something significant
I've not
for
heard
you.
This.
So in California, there's a place. It's called Bohemian Grove. And a lot of the world leaders go here. The presidents have gone here, high-ranking businessmen. Here's Hillary got one. Mm-hmm. I want to say the Obamas got one. Joe Biden got one.
Yep.
Jimmy Carter did not get one, and he was looking for his.
Right.
Jeb was very upset and left.
Yeah,
he left early as they were carrying his dad out.
That's right. And George is absolutely disgusted.
Yeah. So another really quick caveat. 2 days before Herbert Walker Bush was announced alive, I knew he was dead because, Nick, if you want to search this, James Comey tweeted that he's like saying goodbye to a very old dog. And again, his CIA call sign was Timberwolf, which is like
our dog Benji.
Not our dog Benji. He's saying goodbye to an old dog.
I think it was up. I think it was top one.
No, it's not the Benji one. Anyway, yeah, because that was 2018. There, you can find this. We can, whatever. But yeah, so anyway, there is a place in California called the Bohemian Grove, and all of these world leaders and corporate leaders and all these tops, elite tops, they get together, and they go out in the woods for like a week, 2 weeks. I don't know the exact time period, but at one point during this, they have a ceremony, and they burn an effigy at the feet of an owl. It's a huge statue, and they call this owl Moloch. You know who Moloch is, the Canaanite. And they burn a mock sacrifice of a child to Moloch, and they use the symbol of an owl. So Nick, pull up the WikiLeaks. I reference WikiLeaks a lot, but one of the Hillary Clinton emails in WikiLeaks, somebody talks about breaking the Minerva code, and Minerva is a Roman goddess with a symbol of an owl, and it is deception and warfare, things of that nature. And he's asking Hillary if he broke them, or if this speech broke the Minerva contract, or something to that effect. And she says no. But 100% said these people are burning mock sacrifices to Moloch. And they also reference Moloch in the WikiLeaks emails. They say that by the midnight light, with the rabbit's foot, I will sacrifice the chicken in the backyard to Moloch tonight. Something to that effect.
Wow.
So I blacked out. What was in the envelope?
We don't know.
Joe Biden got an envelope.
Hmm.
Could it be a skull and crossbones thing from Yale?
Possibly, but I don't think that.
Did Hillary get one, or was she reading George's?
Hillary got her own.
She didn't go to Yale, did she?
She's reading.
She went
to
to
That's what I was going to say. I don't think. See, she got one. Biden got one. Princeton?
Oh, that was Michelle Obama.
And look at Joe Biden down here. How surprised he looks.
That's his face, Brian.
No, that's a face of surprise.
He's thinking about those random children who rub his white leg hair.
The kids.
What do you think about
when I get in the pool? The kids, they're rubbing my leg hair, and the hair stands up.
What do you think about like the elites going out and doing these, even if they're mock sacrifices to Moloch?
Hillary.
Like, what do you think about like evoking that? And that goes back to that demonic presence that you were talking about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, nothing good at all could come from that. But that is as historically valid as, the Old Testament, because Jerusalem's kings, they became idolaters and they sacrificed to false gods in the high places, and they incurred the judgment of God for it. So it would not surprise me at all that now these, leaders in the same kind of authoritative role are still doing the same thing.
Yeah.
That's wow.
Yeah, that's not to evoke Alex Jones, but Alex Jones in, I want to say, the early 2000s actually was the one who exposed the Bohemian Grove stuff. It's always, it had always been like talked about and stuff like that, but he is the one that really he infiltrated it and filmed it and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And we have like accounts from people because they hire people to work as like bartenders, and they have like a shop there, but it's these elite people that go and they do this whole, spell, basically, is what it seems like.
Is it near LA or what part of California is it?
It's I believe it's in the Redwoods.
Okay.
Like out in and that seems very pagan to me. Way out in the forests, away from the cities, secret society kind of thing.
I'm in on the skull and crossbones.
Yeah, Skull and Crossbones is interesting. I don't think that Obama went to Yale.
He did not.
And I think that he got an envelope. I could be wrong, but
Seth,
I think that he did.
You
there
have
were several
intrigued
people.
me.
Yeah. And this is one of those things that...
There goes my 9 hours of sleep tonight.
Yeah, this is one of those things that has kind of been eating at me because I don't know what they got. That's one of those things that we're never going to know. But it was clearly something, and it upset them greatly.
Yeah,
I mean, you could tell.
Trump did not get one, did he?
No.
I did
not to
know
my
that.
knowledge.
Now, I do not have cable, so that may be why I don't know that.
This was not on the news.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, this was... Yeah.
Kind of came out later.
Okay.
Yeah.
The one that got me was the way that Jeb responded.
Left.
He was...
Left the room.
Yeah.
Left. And, like, he was flustered.
Yep.
You know what? I liked old Jeb. He never had a shot though.
Please
because
clap.
He was George's. Please clap.
Did you not? Have you not seen that video?
Yeah.
Nick, pull that up.
Yeah,
Just
that
We
put
is
don't know if we
Jeb,
can play it, can
but-
we?
I don't know.
I think you can just play it, but
maybe
not
not.
sound it out, right? Just show me. Oh, you're doing the screen share. Wah, wah, wah.
I'll send it to you.
research it.
Everybody, if you're still listening,
Yeah.
check that video out. Let's see. What else? Oh yeah, Seth, what's the weirdest thing? And I don't really mean weird, but what's the strangest thing that you can talk about in the Bible?
wow.
Like, what's something that when you were, studying in your courses or just, reading, now
Yeah.
that you have read and you maybe have gone back to and you've just been like, that's kind of interesting.
Mm-hmm. I suppose you could answer that question a lot of ways. There are things in the Bible that you come across and you think, wow, I can't even wrap my mind around it. Like, how's this, for example? In Joshua, we're told that he prays and the sun stands still so that Israel can continue to battle. Now, that's a small little phrase we might read in the Bible, but NASA cannot comprehend how that is possible. Right? I mean, that's an impossibility. But it happened. So that's one. Honestly, when I read about the parting of the Red Sea, I mean, can you even fathom? How about a guy being tossed into the grave of Elijah, and when he touches his bones, he comes back to life?
Happens all the time, Seth. Come on.
Yeah. Or how about Elisha when he's in a bad situation? The Lord says, "I've commanded ravens to feed you," and they literally carry him bread. Ravens.
Hey, don't forget Jonah now, boys.
Yeah, Jonah in the well. That's a good one too.
There you go. Yeah. I mean, the Old Testament is filled with that.
What do you think about stuff like Paul, like stuff that Paul said, where talks about he knew a man. What was it? He knew a man that had been to which heaven? It was
the third heaven.
The third heaven. So we also, and I am of the opinion that the Bible explains a lot of science. We just don't realize that it's science.
Yeah.
And I think science explains a lot of the Bible, especially with like the creation theory,
right?
And the creation story. Like, they literally go hand in hand. Like they're explaining the exact same thing.
That's right.
So we've seen a couple of things come out in science about there being like a universe that goes backwards, like a parallel universe that goes backwards. So do you think that Paul could have been talking about like different dimensions and that we're sort of like what we see as reality is not exactly the way reality is?
Yeah. I don't personally think so, because I think Scripture speaks of three kinds of heavens. Obviously, the first kind of heaven it speaks of is is what we would refer to as the atmosphere of Earth, the heavens where the birds fly. Even Jesus talks about the birds of the heavens. Well, obviously that means, the clouds and the atmosphere. The second level of the heavens seems to be the stars and the planet and solar system and even the universe itself, because the psalmist talks about the works of God's hands in the heavens, meaning the beauty of the stars and the sun and the moon and all those things. When Paul speaks of the third heaven, I believe he's referring to himself. And he simply means the heaven where God is, where believers who die, where they will be, the Lord's presence, this kind of heaven. And the reason that I think he's referring to himself is because there in 2 Corinthians, when he talks about that, he immediately leaves that story to tell us that he received a thorn in the flesh to keep him from being conceited. Now, what would he be conceited about? Well, I don't know of anybody else who's got to have that kind of trip to the third heaven and come back to tell about it. The Lord had to give him a thorn to keep him humble. It's debatable what that thorn was, but I think he was simply talking about being caught up into the presence of God. I really do, when he speaks of the third heaven. And when he says, "I know a man," he's trying to be as humble as possible. He doesn't want to come out and say, "I went to the third heaven."
I went there, yeah.
Right. He's trying to be humble. So I think that's what that is there in 2 Corinthians. Yeah.
That's very cool.
Yeah.
Deep.
Yeah. I mean, you imagine seeing what Paul saw. I mean, in the very presence of God, where if a mortal is caught up into the presence of God, they'd be consumed by his holiness. And Paul is somehow metaphysically transported there and brought back, and tells about it. It's remarkable.
That is cool. What do you think about the passage in Ezekiel with the chariot?
Refresh me. Give me a little bit more context.
Let's see. Ezekiel, he saw, it was when the angel visited him, and he had, the angel had, I believe it was 4 faces that were always changing between.
Yeah.
Ezekiel 24 or something like that.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, that is a really, really tough passage. I think Ezekiel, in fact, is probably the hardest book to interpret in all of Scripture. I can maybe say what I would think would be an interpretation, but at the end of the day, I don't think I honestly can be dogmatic about it. Yeah. I mean, this kind of language is found in Isaiah's prophecy as well. When he sees a vision of God in the temple, this kind of similar language of the cherubim and these kind of things are described. So when Ezekiel's talking about this, obviously, it's referring not to these creatures, but more importantly to the creatures the God whom they surround, basically. And there it is, God's glory exits the temple. So it's just hard to say what that was about. I really don't know.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Well, see, that's the cool thing. There's always stuff in the Bible that we don't know, and it's always something more to study.
Yeah. I had a Bible college professor who said, major on the majors and minor on the minors. And that's kind of been a guiding principle for my teaching ministry, because there are certainly times when we want to delve into this kind of stuff, but most of the people that I'm blessed to minister to, they just need me to tell them what the Bible means and then just apply it to their life in a simple way and just major on the main things. But this kind of stuff is fascinating to think about.
Yeah. See, I like all the weird stuff. I just like weird stuff in general.
I do too.
And making me mad about the bushes is what he really takes pride in.
Sorry, man.
It's all good.
Sorry, dude.
Poor
That's the way it is.
Let's wind down, but I want to hit Twitter first. A very special listener, Seth, gave you your own shout out and personal message after deducting from the context clues who we may be bringing on.
Mm.
So if Nick can hit us on the Twitter, on the twitter.com.
Is it Scottie Pippen?
You know what? We actually told him to hold off. He's writing you a card.
Oh.
Here we go.
Bradley Hampton.
Granddad himself.
Oh.
The man.
What a man.
Ask Seth what his pointers are on growing such a beautiful stash, and tell him that I love him. The most disturbing piece of information on the screen to me right now is that Brad Hampton has resorted to an android. That doesn't work for me, green circles. That's just a pain
That is
point.
disturbing. That's really disturbing. Man.
But, yeah, there you go, Seth. Any pointers on the stash?
Yeah. Well, first of all, Brad, I love you. And I can't wait to throw down some Peking with you.
Pekings.
The Pekings.
Seth.
The Pekings.
Yeah, we'll go to the Pekings. But when it comes to the stash, when we had our second child, I felt that it was necessary for me to purchase a minivan, which I did from Man Toyota, and I was really satisfied. Once I purchased the minivan, I deduced that my next logical step would be to buy a pair of Birkenstocks, which I did, and I was on vacation this past year. The third logical step...
Air Jerusalems?
Air Jerusalem.
Oh.
They were Skechers to make it even better. Now, to finish off this triple crown of dadhood, I decided to grow a mustache. Not a nice one. In between a pedophile and a NASCAR driver. And so, until my children are raised and out of my home and on their own, I most likely will have a mustache.
And I will carry this torch.
Even though I did trim it on the day of your wedding, which I hope tells you how much I think of you and Megan.
Me, yes. Yeah, I to be honest, Seth, I blacked out during the whole experience. They told me you were there, but I, for the life of me, can't remember it.
Hey, it's all right.
Of course I'm joking.
We got the certificate. That's all that matters. It happened.
Oh, gosh.
But that's my pointers. There's really, I don't think anything else I can say. I will tell you guys this, though.
There's a three-piece suit to dadhood.
Yep. The minivan, the Birkenstocks, and the mustache.
I can't do number 2. I don't have outside toes, dude.
Yeah,
you're just walking around showing people your toes?
Well, I mean, you can wear socks. That is acceptable when you have at least 2 children. So,
oh my goodness.
That's kind of the rationale.
Granddad, I hope that's everything you could have ever asked for right there, wrapped up in a little bundle.
Just for you.
Yep.
I'm tired. My hair's longer than it's ever been.
I got a haircut today, actually.
Where? Some speakeasy?
Speakeasy. That's exactly where I got my haircut.
You can't get in anywhere for like 3 weeks.
You have to, I don't want to say any, yeah, you got to knock on the correct brick in the wall.
Yeah, I made an appointment like 3 weeks ago. So,
They get you in Thanksgiving? What do you think?
I got it, like on Monday, I got it in.
I'm going to let it go and do a party in the back. Just kind of let it hang out. You know?
I think you should just do a mohawk.
Yeah. Brian, my hair doesn't... Seth can attribute. Mine goes... like, it doesn't just hang out. It just...
I feel you.
You and me both.
It would stop a .22 caliber bullet. I have no doubt. It feels like what I would assume a goat. What hair feels like once it's bathed in the creek. But all right, Seth, hit us with the parting thoughts.
Now I'm going to be thinking about goats bathing in a creek.
If that's the only thing you take from this, consider it a blessed Thursday.
Hey, no, I have enjoyed it thoroughly, and I'm glad you guys are doing this. I love you guys. Thanks for having me on. Please know that you have a supporter of Holler Pod in Johnson County, Kentucky.
Pew, 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 pew. Well,
That's
hey,
all we can ask for, baby.
we love you. You're our favorite preacher that mentors and pastors to our mortal enemies growing up.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, when I grew my mustache out, I knew that you were my direct competition. So I just want to let you know I wake up every day and think about you
That's comforting.
and your mustache.
Yeah,
And
look, you had me beat. I mean, it wasn't even a competition. It was
it
unreal. Yours is like on Miracle Grow, and mine was taking Carnation Good Start.
well, it's a part of being dark-haired. It's kind of not really fun, but you know, when you got armpit hair in 6th grade, everybody's like, "What's wrong with you?" It's like, you know, whatever.
Hey, I will tell you guys this: if you go back and find a picture of Chris Carter at 26 years old and hold it up to me, we are the same person.
It's you. Yeah.
So you think about how sexy my dad is now, boys. My future's looking bright.
No, nothing but up from here, baby.
That's it. Emily outpunted her coverage.
Oh, goodness. All right, Brian, Nick, parting thoughts. Let's wrap this up. I may get a game of Warzone in. Who knows? I got a strict 11:30 bedtime, boys.
Well, you got to do what you got to do.
What do you think? Give me something good.
Seth, thanks for coming on, man. We'll have you on again. Great catching up. Great hearing from you. Great hearing your interpretations of everything. You know, thanks.
Hey, it's an honor. Thank you.
Yeah.
We
love
you. We're sorry we
do.
kept you up.
You guys too.
We're sorry we kept you up till 11 on a school night, but
This is great. I'm out of diaper duty. If we could keep this going for like 2 more hours,
we'll just book it in. Hey, I want to leave us all with some wise words from my grandfather. Think about this, ponder on this. We'll be back next week. You can shear a sheep year round,